Are you done? Yeah. You can turn it in. You want to hand it in? Or you want to wait?
No,
You sure? Okay. Thank you. We have 5 more minutes. Thank you. You have 4 minutes, so if you want to try it, you can. Thank you. Thank you. All right, thank you. Thank you. One minute. Thank you. Thanks. Okay, that's time. Anybody else? You have a chance to do a little bit? Yeah. Okay. Okay, that's it? Do you want me to go through it or no? Yes? Okay, I'm going to go quick. All right, so the first one, you're going to take this, you're going to convert it to a decimal, 0.04. You're going to multiply it times 3. That's going to tell you how much salt you have, right? So what is that? 0.12. 0.12. So you have 0.12 liters of salt. Now, when you add these two together, you're going to have 3 liters plus 4 liters. You're going to have 7 liters of solution. That's kind of the obvious part of the question. The next one, what's the percentage of salt? Well, you have 7 liters, and 0.12 liters of it is salt. So you do 0.12 divided by 7, and whatever that came out to be. 1 point something? 1.7-ish? Okay. So it comes out to be, we think, about 1.7%. Okay, that's the first part. This one right here, you plug in 3 into this, you get what? 9 minus 4 times 3, 12, gives you negative 3. And then here you plug in negative 3 squared, still 9, minus 4 times negative 3, so this is 9, plus 12, that's 21. So you should get negative 3 and 21. This one, f of negative 2. Did you get this one right? No?
I don't know. I hope I did.
Okay, so you go to negative 2. You try and find the value. It should be negative 1. And then 1. And you go up, right, 2. And then this is asking for the x that gives you a y value of 1.
0.
And that happens right here. And that happens when x is 0. Okay. That's it. That's the quiz. Okay, so I think that the homework is getting frustrating for some of you because they don't match up. The homework packet that you bought at the bookstore, right, had some questions about domain and range that I did not cover in class. So if that happens again, if I haven't talked about it in class, then, you know, ignore it. And it would be better for you to not invest time in that and just ask me next class than to go try and figure it out on your own, okay? I've already looked at the factoring in the next few sections, and they match up pretty good. So we shouldn't have that issue again. I apologize. All right, anything else you want to discuss before we get into today's stuff? All right, so we're going to try at the end of class to have another quiz, but it'll be more of a group quiz. Just like a credit almost, just for being here and breathing. All right, so it'll kind of offset if you didn't do well on that one. I'd like to get 2 grades in today for this week, but it'll be over what we do today. All right, so please pay attention, ask questions. All right, so what were we doing last time? Do you remember? We were trying to factor by grouping. And we did greatest common factor first. We said you always try that. And then we did a grouping problem. So we're going to pick up with that. Let's take a look at this problem. 30x squared plus 9xy minus 20x minus 6y. And the instructions here are to factor. So when it comes to factoring, I'm going to write this down on the side. You're not going to be able to see it on camera. But when it comes to factoring, the first thing we always try is what? GCF. We always see, is there a greatest common factor? So do we have a greatest common factor here? Start with the numbers. Is there a number that goes into 30, 9, negative 20, and negative 6, all at the same time? No, I don't think we're going to get anything, right? Right, 2 doesn't go in there. 3 doesn't go. 2 doesn't go into the 9, right? 3 doesn't go into the 20, and you could keep trying. You're not going to find anything. All right, how about x's? Do we have x's in all the terms? No. Do we have y's in all the terms? No. So we do not have a GCF. All right, so the next thing that we do is we ask ourselves, how many terms do we have? Well, how many terms do we have? 4. And whenever we see 4, we're going to try grouping, right? So I'm going to put that under here. If 4, then try grouping. I put try there because grouping does not always work. Sometimes it fails, but for this class, it'll most of the time work, all right? All right, so how did we do the grouping last time? What was it? Cut it in half, right? Where do I do that?
Before the subtraction.
Before the subtraction, right after the last variable or number right here. Slash that thing in half. And then, where are all your name tags? Y'all have them? Come on, break them out. You lost yours? I have more. I'm only giving these out because if I'm going to do it one of these days, I'm going to give a quiz on who has their name tag. You need one? All right? So consider this required material. You need marker? Marker? Here we go. Heads up back there. Marker. I'm going to throw it in the middle. Good catch. Marker, you got one back there? Okay. All right, so what do we do on the first 2 terms? We do GCF on just the first 2 terms. So do we have a number that goes into both of these? The largest one you can find is 3, so we put a 3 here. And then we look at the variables, x. What's the most factors of x that we have in both of them? X. Just one single x. How about y's? No, I don't have a y in both. So after this, I put a what, Nautica? Parenthesis, good. You know, I picked on you last time, never mind. Erica? After the parenthesis, how many terms am I going to have in here, Erica? 2, right. How do you turn 3 into a 30, Erica? Multiplied by what? 10. And then what else am I missing here? An x, good. And then a plus sign, and then what do I need to turn the 3 into a 9? 3, and anything else? A y, because I'm missing a y. Good. That's it, right? Is that all right? So you can always just double check, just multiply this through, and you should get back those 2 terms. After I'm done with that, Rebecca, you look like you want some of this. What would you do here? GCF here, and what do you see?
2.
2? Okay, so let's put a 2 out here, all right? Let's just put 2 because that's what you said. And then parenthesis, and then you would have to put what here to get back this? Negative 10x, right? Because you said 2, right? Does everyone see that? I would need a negative 10x here. Now, there's a little bit of a problem we should see right here. And that's, in order for grouping to work, what's in this parentheses must match exactly with what's in this parentheses. And it's going to be off a little bit, right? By the negative sign. So instead of pulling out a positive 2, let's pull out a negative 2 instead. And now when you do this times 10x, you will get at least these 2 first pieces to match, right? And now what would you need to multiply negative 2 by to get negative 6? Positive 3. And you also need a y. So plus 3y. And fortunately for us, these 2 match, right? If these 2 do not match, and there's no way that you can like tweak it to make it work, this grouping method fails. But in this case it didn't. So you want to do it? Caesar. What would you write next, Caesar? What would you write? 10x plus 3y, close it off, and then parentheses 3x minus 2. Exactly. Perfect. So all we're doing is whatever matches, right? We like pulled it out, which is this. And then what's left in here are the two pieces that were in front. And at that point, we are factored. Okay? Now later on, what we would do is we would look at this and we would look at this and we would see, can those factor? But we haven't talked about two-term factoring yet. We actually are starting with four-term factoring, which seems like we should start with two, but we start with four. Four is going to help us do three terms. And then for the two terms, there's special formulas. Yes?
I was just going to ask, like, what, on the original, like, can you ever, like, rearrange those?
You could, and sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't. Caesar was asking, like, could you, like, put the maybe the 20 minus 20x here and like the 9xy there and try it? Yes, you could. All right, let's do another one. Get some larger numbers here. 56x squared plus 24xy minus 70x minus 30y. John Paul, our first step is to always do what?
Split it.
Split it before that.
Factor out the greatest.
If we have one, right? So if we have one, we always want to check for this, all right? Always check for this. So do we have a common number that goes into all of those? Hey, they're all even, aren't they?
2.
We do have a 2. Agreed? Anything bigger than 2? Does 3 go into all of them? I don't think 3 goes into this, does it? No. 4, does 4 go into all those? No, 4 doesn't go into 30. 5 doesn't go into 6. Let's start with the 2. Maybe if we look at the 2, it'll help us look at the remaining numbers and see if something factors out. Any variables? No? You don't have x's all the way through. You don't have y's all the way through. So 2 is the only thing I can pull out. What is left? How many terms will I have? Alex, how many terms am I going to have? If I'm pulling something out, how many should I have in here? 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. However many I started with, that's how many should be in there. So turn 2 into 56, you multiply by 28, you still have x squared, 12xy, 35x minus 15, right? That's a 2 taken out of everything.
15y.
Y, thank you. That would have caused some problems later. All right, we good? Now, looking at these again, I don't think there's a number that's going to go on all those. In other words, I think the 2 was enough, right? So now we look at what's in the parentheses. We recognize that there's 4 terms, and then we slash it right after the second term. And we're going to do grouping on those. And don't forget, we've got that 2 sitting on the outside of everything. Don't just like forget to write it. It's there. So watch how I write this. 2 parenthesis. And then I'm going to pull a GCF. I'm not going to. Kathleen is going to pull a GCF out of the first 2 terms. You don't want to? No. Okay. So let me help you, Kathleen. What number can you think of? Can you think of a number that goes into both of these? Oh, 4, I think so, right? Is that the biggest one? I think that might be the biggest one. So try it. Write a 4 down. What else do they have in common, Kathleen? Just single x. How about y's? Do they both have a y? Nope. So we're done? I don't want to freak you out too much, so I'll move on. Carlos, how many terms are we going to have in here, Carlos?
2.
2, because we pulled out of this, right? Okay. What's going to be here, Carlos?
7x.
7x, and then you want to keep going?
Yeah.
What do you got?
Plus 3xy.
3xy. We have an x out here, don't we?
Oh.
Right? So all we need is an xy. We already have the x, so you'll just need the y.
Okay.
Right?
31.
Okay. Good. Now look, what I've been telling you is that the next thing you do is pull a GCF out of this, right? But there's kind of a different approach if you want to try this. You don't have to, all right? But just see if you like this or not. What do I have to have in here for this to work? 7x plus 3y. That's the only way it's going to work, right? So let me just try 7x plus 3y here. And now let me try and think of something that I could put out here that would turn this into this and this into this. -5, right? Do you see the difference between that and the other way? Your choice, okay? If you put this down here and you can't come up with a number or something that's going to do this, then the grouping fails. Any questions on what I've written?
So either way, they're both going to have 7x plus 3y.
But either way, that's what you have to have in order to continue using the grouping method. Yeah. Oh yeah, that was only for the quiz. Sorry, that was only for the quiz. Did I answer your question, Amber?
Yes.
Okay. Now I am missing something here. I need one more parenthesis.
Don't you do like brackets if it's like 1 and 1?
That's a good question. Honestly, yes and no. Brackets and parentheses are exactly the same thing, but they use brackets kind of further back to kind of help you. So like, let's say you're doing like 2 plus 1, okay? Then you do plus 4, and then that, you want that times 2, but then you want to add 7 to that, and then what do they do after brackets? They would use the brace, right? And then, so you could see like, okay, you do the brace, then inside do the brackets, then inside do the parentheses. But that was just to help you see like outside in. But what if I wanted to keep going? Like, what symbol am I going to use now? So parentheses are exactly the same thing. If you replace all of these with parentheses, it's the same thing. So using parentheses is more advanced than brackets, braces, and parentheses. Does that make sense? Okay. Now what? Distribute, well,
You would leave the 2 out.
leave the 2 out because that's factored out, right? We want this thing factored. So leave the 2 out there. What does all of this in here turn into? So I'm going to write that down over here. We still have the 2 out there, right? And then parentheses what? 7x plus 3y. Close it. Parentheses again. 4x minus 5. Now I heard some other people say this. I think this is where they were going with it. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, you can do either way. Those don't matter. That order doesn't matter because it's multiplication, right? Multiply, 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 multiply. So either one of these are your answers. Yes?
Would the 2 distribute to both of them in that scenario?
That's a great question too.
Because I feel like both those parentheses should have an additional set of parentheses.
That's a great question. What do y'all think? Does that 2, if I asked you to go ahead and pass this 2 through, would the 2 go through here, here, and then here, here? Or would it only go through one of them?
Just the first set, right?
Only this one? But what if you wrote it this way? It would go through this one and not that one. Does it matter? Turns out it doesn't matter. The 2 would only go to one of the parentheses. You would have to choose. It wouldn't matter which one. And here's the reason why. You can just think back of something more simple. What's 2 times 3 times 4? How do you do that?
4.
That's 2 times 3, which is 6, and then times 4, which is 24, right? You do not do 2 times 3, then 2 times 4, do you? No, you don't do that. And that's the same thing. 2 times 3 times 4, you don't go 2 times 3 and 2 times 4. That answer your question? Kind of? You don't seem satisfied.
Well,
It's
I
mo-
feel like if you put both of the parentheses in another parentheses, you would then have to do those first, do order operations, and then just multiply that. Which would be the
Well, it wouldn't, because it's multiplication, it won't matter. Look, if you put a set of parentheses here, it doesn't change the problem, okay? It's still going to give you the same answer. You still get the same result. Because multiplication, it doesn't matter what order you do this. If you have 3 things being multiplied, I can go 3 times 4, 12, times 2, which is 24. I can go 2 times 3, which is 6, times 4, which is 24. I can even do 2 times 4, which is 8, times 3, which is 24. Multiplication order does not matter, but it is not passed through like this. The reason I said it's a great question is because these are those like fundamental things that you have to understand. You know, I mean, but I don't know. It's a great question.
scenario where it wouldn't work, but
You're not going to be able to find it.
okay. Well, that's nice of it.
It is, and that's why I like mathematics, because you're not going to have this gray area of, oh, but it doesn't work this time.
Yeah.
You know? All right. I think that's it for grouping. You'll have to practice, right? So you have plenty of problems in your homework for practicing that. Now let's get on to this whole factoring thing. We say, all right, look for the GCF first, then how many terms. If we have 4 terms, we have a way that might work. What if we have 3 terms? If 3 terms, then we do what we call the AC method with grouping. Okay. So 3 terms, that's not on camera, so I'm going to put it here. 3 terms, which we call trinomials. Then we use what's called the AC method with grouping. Now look, you may already have seen how to factor trinomials from high school. You may have a way that works with you. In fact, there are going to be some people in here who know a method called just kind of like guess and check, where they're just like mentally trying to make it happen. And if you're comfortable with that, great. This is a method for people who really just right now don't feel comfortable factoring trinomials, and I need to give them kind of a lifeline. Here it is, here's how you can do it systematically. All right? So let's look at our first example. X squared minus 6x plus 8. All right, the instructions here are to factor. So just, I know somebody in here already knows what this is. Can anyone know? Just by looking? Okay, what do you got? I agree with the 2. Minus 2 minus 4. You have to get a negative 6 in the middle, right? Okay, but you obviously it's in there. You just got to sort through a couple of little things. Okay, so that is the correct answer. All right? That's not the AC method with grouping. I'm going to show you that. But let's just see what we have. If we were asked to multiply this out, you get what here? X squared. You get minus 4x. You get minus 2x. And then you get plus 8, right? And if you put that together, you would have this, right? So the question is, how do we go from this to this? And you have a way of doing it where you're just playing with the numbers in your head, right? That's what you're doing. You're trying to come up with 2 numbers that multiply to be this, but add it up to be this. And that's the AC method, basically. But here's a more systematic approach. So everyone realize that's where we're trying to get to, all right? So here's the more systematic approach. First thing, GCF. Make sure there's not a greatest common factor, right? And now what I do is I'm going to make this little, like an X. And this is kind of childish, but let's just go with it, all right? Up here, I want you to put the number 8, which is the last number you see over here, which is a positive 8, right? So I put plus 8 up there, just 8. And then the number in front of X, which is negative 6. And here's what I need. This is a little multiplication symbol, and this is a little addition symbol. I need you to mentally come up with two numbers that will multiply to be this and add to be this. So I think the obvious choices for numbers that multiply to be 8 would be 8 and 1, 2 and 4, right? Those are the only numbers that you can think of that it would multiply to be 8. But I need these numbers that we choose to add to be a negative number. So that means they both have to be negative. Like I have to have like negative 8, negative 1, negative 2, and negative 4, right? Because two negatives multiply to be a positive. So which of these would add to be negative 6? Negative 2, negative 4, right? So I'm going to put here negative 2 and negative 4. And it doesn't matter. You could put negative 4 or negative 2, right? That doesn't matter. Okay, y'all with me? All right, the next step, after you've determined your two numbers, is you're going to rewrite the problem that you're trying to factor. You're not going to change this or this. You're just going to leave those. But that negative 6x that's in the middle, right, that negative 6x, you're not going to write it as negative 6x. You're going to use these two numbers instead. So you're going to write negative 2x and negative 4x. I think we would all agree that these two numbers, or these two terms together would get us back to this, right? So why would I do that? Why would I take that negative 6x and split it into two terms? Why? Now I've made it 4 terms, right? And how do we factor things with 4 terms? Grouping. I can do grouping on this. So we come in here with grouping. Do you see why we did 4 terms before 3 terms now? To do grouping, I slash it right past the second one, and I pull a GCF out of the first. So what can I pull out of this? An x, and that's all, right? So I'm going to have x in parentheses, what? X minus 2. And then do y'all like doing the one where we matched it? We said we're going to need x minus 2 here. And then what would I need to turn x into negative 4x and negative 2 into positive 8? Negative 4. And that is exactly what we needed, these two to match. And so we can write the next line, and this will be the answer, won't it? What is it? The thing they both have, x minus 4. You can write it that way, x minus 4 and then x minus 2. Or the other way. So really, to do this trinomial thing, this is the new step. This right here, and then splitting this into 2 pieces. Once you get here, it's now 4-term factoring, grouping. Now, I would prefer you do Bethany's way, which is to do it mentally, but that takes time, all right, to get to the point where you're comfortable enough to do that. If you're there, though, that's good enough for me. All right, we should try something a little more difficult, don't you think? Well, we'll do one more easy one, and then we'll do something a little more difficult. How about hold on. Factor that. You ready to have it? Yeah? Yeah. All right, so 3 terms, no GCF. Destiny, what number am I going to put here, and what number am I going to put here? So -6 here, and +1. All right, so let's see. Destiny, can you think of 2 numbers? That's all right. Okay, tell me the things that multiply to be 6. Come on. Just give me 2 numbers, 6 and 1. All right, and then any others that multiplied? 3 and 2. Okay, good. Now that you've got those, you need this to be a -6, right? So if I multiply these, that's positive. That's not going to work. So you got to make one of them negative. So which one would you like to be negative? It's up to you. Okay? So you could have that, or you could have this, right? Do either one of these, if I took 6 and added -1, or -6 and add 1, would I get 1? No. So it can't be those. Here, I still have to be negative, so one of these has to be negative, right? I could have this, or I could have this. Which of these would add up to be 1? Last one, right? So this is like 3 minus 2. So that's it. 3, -2. Got it?
Wait, if -3, if it was -3, then would it be -1?
I'm using this one.
Okay, but I thought you said that you can use either or.
I'm saying, okay, we had 2 and 3, or 3 and 2, right? That multiplies to be 6. I need -6. So it either has to be a -3 times 2, or it has to be a 3 times a -2. It's got to be one of these, right? But it can't be this one, because that adds up to be -1. These add up to be +1. Understand? Okay. So now we got that. We rewrite this. I like to just rewrite the edges, right? X squared and -6. Put that first. Who's that? Lena? You look happy. You have a smiley face on your thing, so you look happy. Lena, I'm going to rewrite the x as what? Are you comfortable doing this without all this? Kinda? Okay. Well, you can still help. I'm trying to rewrite 1x, right? And I'm using these 2. So what should I write?
You can write -2
X.
and then +3.
Yes. And like I said earlier, it doesn't matter what order you put these in. Okay? And that's it. We're there. 4 terms, slash it, GCF. So what's the GCF on the first 2? X. What's left? X minus 2. Okay, here, I'll play the matching game. I need X minus 2. So what number must be on the outside of that? 3, right? 3? Must be on the outside. And since it's +3, I put +3. Bless you. And I believe we'll be there at this point. I'm going to write what they both have in common, x minus 2 in parentheses, and then x plus 3. The good news about factoring is that you can always check your work. You can always go back and multiply this out. And if it multiplies out and combines together, and if you get back this, then you did it correctly. You all ready for the weekend? Yes? Good. It's nice, this no classes on Friday thing, huh? All right. 5x squared minus 14x plus 8. All right, so even my students who are pretty good at this are probably going to have to think a little bit about this or write something down. Do I have anyone that can just knock this out right away without writing anything down? No? All right. I didn't think so. So these are more complicated. Always start at the beginning. We're trying to factor GCF number that goes in all of those. No? You don't have an X through all of them, so no GCF. 3 terms, AC method with grouping. Oh, by the way, the reason they call it the AC method, I didn't explain this, is that all quadratic trinomials can be written in this form, ax squared plus bx plus c, which we'll talk about later. These are called quadratics. That's the general form of a quadratic. And the numbers that we put in this box have to do with, I told you take that number and then this number, right? Well, this is the c, right? The a is out here, and somehow the a and the c are going to be incorporated here into this method. So that's why they call it AC method. Now, you haven't seen where the a comes in, but this is the first problem where you have to look at it. So, all right. I told you before that you would put 2 numbers here, right? And if you follow what I said before, you would probably write this, right? This is incorrect. Now here's why, all right? Here's why. The problems that we did before, we had a 1 out here, didn't we? It was always just x squared, x squared, x squared. What I didn't tell you is that what you were actually doing was taking the number back right here and multiplying it times the number there. And if this was 1x squared, it was always just 1 times that number, so it was just the back. For the proper AC method, what you have to do is take this number and multiply it times this number, and keep track of the signs. This is a positive times a positive, which would give you a positive, right? 5 times 8 is 40, and that's the number that goes here. This is a times c. Do you see that? That's a times c, the number a out here, times the c. Now, the good news is that the negative 14, that is right. You do keep that way. Y'all okay with this? All right, here we go. You have to think of a number that multiplies to be 40 and adds to be negative 14. So look, you just have to start making a list, 40 and 1. What else? 20 and 2. 10 and 4. Should I keep going? 8 and 5. Any further? Is that pretty good? Now let's think about the signs. I need to have a positive number here, but a negative number here. The only way I can get a positive number here is if both of these numbers are positive or both of them are negative. Do you agree? And I need a negative number here, and the only way I can put these two together and get negatives is if at least one of them is negative. So this is telling me both have to be negative, and this is telling me at least one of them has to be negative. So that means they both have to be negative. So do any of those add up to be negative 14? Negative 10, negative 4. Was that a question? Or? Oh, you want to keep going? Okay, so go ahead, Erica. You want to rewrite this for me now. What do you want me to write, Erica?
Do we keep how we did last time?
Yep.
5,
Yep. 5.
6, and
Then
Negative 10.
negative 10. Good.
then negative 4.
Good. Plus 8. There you go. That's it. Everyone see what I did? And now you group this. Slash it here. This is the young Einsteins over here, the young Einsteins table. Y'all didn't come up with names for your groups. Just you're the only ones. Leaders.
Maybe the old Einsteins.
You can be the old ones. So what are we going to do on that first one? What are we pulling out? 5x, right? You're going to pull the number also. So 5x. What's inside the parenthesis? X minus 2. And then you need to match the same thing over here. So if this has to be x minus 2, and I've got to turn an x into a negative 4x, then my only option is what? Negative 4. And now I'm going to just check. -4 times -2 is +8. This works. So my final result can be written two ways. This one, or if you'd like, you could do it the other way. How we doing? Y'all all right with this? I'm gonna have to give you some to do on your own, of course. You do this one. Let's do it on a separate piece of paper. Just put your name on it. You may speak with each other if you wish. All right? I'm going to give you 10 minutes. We're going to restart class in 15 minutes. Okay, at 1:50, I'm going to restart class. Right now on my watch says 1:35. So if you finish that up, you can take a break till 1:50, or you can take the whole 15 minutes and then you're not going to get a break. Factor this. Oh, and you're going to turn it in. This is going to be your second quiz grade of the day.
I noticed that doing my percentages wrong. Like when they're asking me for the percent, right? I know that that's 0.10 of the 1 whole liter. But when they want to know the whole combination of the 3, I'm doing 0.10 times the 3, right? Liters.
Which one is this one? This is where,
The
okay.
homework on everything.
Yeah. No, you're doing the point. So this is how many liters, 0.10 times 1 is how much butter fat milk you have, right? And your total liters is 3.